You stand at the threshold of your own mind, where the familiar architecture of self begins to crumble. The walls, once solid with the convictions of youth, now whisper of fractures unseen. Who is this I that gazes back from the depths? A mosaic of borrowed faces, pieced together from the illusions of others, now splintering under the weight of unspoken truths. The air hangs heavy with the scent of decay, not of flesh, but of forgotten promises etched into the stone of your being. Each step echoes with the dissonance of lives unlived, selves abandoned in the rush toward some illusory wholeness. Jung spoke of the shadow, that dark companion lurking in the recesses, but what if the shadow is the truest part? What if the light we chase is merely the glare of denial? Feel the first crack, the subtle shift as identity unravels, thread by thread, revealing the void beneath. Regret seeps in like fog through the fissures, carrying the what-ifs of decades past. Did you choose this path, or was it chosen for you by the ghosts of expectation? The psyche, this abandoned cathedral, holds no answers, only the echo of questions that multiply in the silence. Mortality looms not as an end, but as the relentless erosion of the self you thought eternal. Alienation begins here in the recognition that you are but a tenant in your own soul, evicted by time's indifferent hand. Deeper into the nave, where the altars of belief lie in ruin, you confront the relics of your constructed reality. These icons, once worshipped as truths, now mock with their hollow gazes. The persona that mask Jung warned of peels away in layers, exposing the raw underbelly of desire and fear. Fragmentation accelerates. The self divides into warring factions, each claiming sovereignty over the chaos. Repression, that vigilant gatekeeper, falters, allowing the flood of suppressed memories to breach the dams. Childhood echoes resound, innocence betrayed, potentials smothered under the boot of conformity. Regret coils like smoke, thickening the air, choking the breath of possibility. What lives did you deny in pursuit of safety? The alienation deepens, a chasm between the self you present and the abyss you hide. Existential dread stirs not as abstract philosophy, but as the visceral gnaw in your core, questioning the very fabric of meaning. The cathedral's arches, bowed under centuries of weight, mirror the psyche's strain. One tremor and collapse seems imminent, yet you press on, drawn by the morbid curiosity of what lies in the fragmentation's heart. Mortality whispers through the cracks, reminding that all cathedrals, even those of the mind, yield to entropy's embrace. The corridors twist inward, leading to chambers where the anima and animus, those inner opposites, clash in silent fury. Identity's fragmentation reveals not unity, but a cacophony of voices, each a discarded aspect, clamoring for recognition. Cognitive dissonance thrums like a low dirge, the tension between who you are and who you pretend to be tearing at the seams. Repression's vault cracks open, spilling forth the detritus of regret. Lost loves, unheeded callings, the slow death of dreams under the grind of routine. Alienation envelops you, a fog that blurs the boundaries between self and other, self and nothing. Jung's archetypes emerge not as guides, but as accusatory specters embodying the unlived life. The psyche's cathedral, vast and echoing, amplifies the isolation, every footfall a reminder of solitude's depth. Mortality's shadow lengthens here, casting doubt on every edifice built against it. What endures when the self dissolves? The questions multiply, unanswered, as the structure groans under the weight of introspection's burden. You feel the pull of the void, tempting surrender to the fragments, where perhaps a perverse wholeness awaits in the surrender. Now the mirrors multiply, each pane a portal to a splintered self, confronting you with the multiplicity of your being. Self-confrontation ignites. No longer can you avert the gaze from the shadows within. The persona shatters, revealing the raw, unfiltered psyche in all its grotesque beauty. Jung's shadow surges forward, no longer denied, merging with the ego in a violent alchemy. Regret manifests as physical ache, the what-might-have-beens clawing at the present. Alienation fractures further as you recognize the self as stranger and imposter in its own domain. Existential questions batter like storm winds. Is this life authentic or a pale imitation scripted by fear? The cathedral's foundations quake with the force of this reckoning, dust sifting from the vaults above. Mortality presses closer, a specter in the reflections, urging the confrontation with finitude. Cognitive dissonance peaks, the mind a battlefield where illusions die screaming. You stand amid the shards, bloodied by truth, wondering if integration is possible or if the fracture is the new reality. The oppression builds a heavy mantle, as introspection yields not clarity but deeper obfuscation. The fractures widen, breaching the walls to expose the abyssal undercurrents of the unconscious. Self-confrontation evolves into immersion. You plunge into the torrent of repressed elements rising to claim their due. The anima weeps for the unloved parts, the animus rages against the suppressed strength. Regret crystallizes into chains, binding you to the altars of missed opportunities. Alienation resonates in the empty choirs where your voice joins the chorus of the lost. Jungian depths unfold, archetypes no longer symbols but living forces tearing at the fabric of sanity. What dread grips you now, this existential nausea at the heart of being? The psyche fractures along fault lines of denial, each split a revelation of mortality's inexorable march. Cognitive dissonance howls through the breaches, harmonizing with the wind of oblivion. The cathedral, once sanctuary, becomes arena for this internal war, stones trembling with the fury of unspoken truths. You grapple with the fragments, seeking to reassemble, but the pieces mock with their incompatibility. Oppression settles like lead in the lungs, breath shallow in the face of the self's unraveling storm. At the heart of the nave, the great rift opens, a chasm mirroring the psyche's divide. Confrontation reaches fever pitch, the self stares into its own abyss and the abyss, unblinking, stares back. Repression's barriers collapse entirely, unleashing a deluge of submerged horrors and longings. Regret drowns the spirit, waves of if only crashing against the shores of now. Alienation absolute, you float adrift in the flood, untethered from any solid ground of identity. Existential dread consumes, the question of meaning dissolving into the void's maw. Jung's collective unconscious bubbles up, archetypes fusing in chaotic mandalas of madness. Mortality's grip tightens, the clock's toll reverberating through the rift. Cognitive dissonance fractures the mind into prisms of conflicting realities. The cathedral shudders, pews toppling into the depths as the internal earthquake reshapes all. You cling to the edges, whispering pleas to the fragments, but silence answers with indifference. The weight of this fracture bows the spirit, a meditative descent into the pressure of unvarnished truth, where hope flickers and dies in the gloom. The doors burst open, expelling the turmoil into the external world, where madness takes form in the barren expanse. Psychic collapse cascades outward, the internal storm now ravages the soul's horizon. Shadows detach, roaming as autonomous entities, embodiments of the repressed unleashed. Regret manifests in spectral figures, replaying the errors in endless loops. Alienation sprawls across the desolation, self-lost in the vastness of indifferent nature. Jungian archetypes externalize, the wise old man a crumbling statue, the trickster a howling gale. Existential void expands, mortality not distant but the very soil underfoot, fertile only for despair. Cognitive dissonance echoes in the howls of the wind, realities clashing in auditory hallucinations. The cathedral recedes, a crumbling silhouette, as the mind's ruin spills into the world. You wander among the ashes, confronting the externalized self in its raw, unhinged glory. Oppression external now, the sky pressing down, heavy with the weight of collapsed illusions. In this madness, a perverse freedom stirs, the shedding of masks in the face of oblivion's embrace. Madness blooms across the moor, fires of forgotten time consuming the remnants of order. Collapse deepens, the psyche once contained now infects the external with its delirium. Archetypes warp into nightmarish guardians, the mother devouring, the hero slain. Regret fuels the flames, each pyre a monument to squandered existence. Alienation in the isolation of the wastes where even echoes flee your call. Existential dread saturates the air, breathing it in invites the question, why persist in this fractured charade? Jung's shadow engulfs, merging self with the collective dark. Mortality dances in the embers, a reminder that all burns to ash eventually. Cognitive dissonance manifests as the ground shifting, realities layering in impossible overlays. The cathedral's spire cracks on the distant horizon, mirroring the mind's final breaches. You stumble through the inferno, externalizing the inner chaos, finding no solace in the sprawl. The heavy tone of this expulsion weighs upon the spirit, meditative in its horror, as madness externalizes the unspoken collapse. The storm breaks, lightning etching the battlefield of the soul against the roiling sky. Psychic collapse culminates in frenzy, externalized elements war for dominance in the ruins. Shadows multiply into armies, each a facet of the fractured self in mortal combat. Regret thunders, regrets incarnate striking blows that echo through eternity. Alienation peaks in the melee, individuality dissolved in the collective rage. Jungian forces collide, persona annihilated, unconscious triumphant in chaos. Existential abyss yawns wide, swallowing light, posing the ultimate query. In this void, what remains of me? Mortality crackles in the bolts, life a fleeting spark in the tempest. Cognitive dissonance roars as thunder, truths and lies indistinguishable in the din. The cathedral lies in heaps, stones as tombstones for the ego's death. You are thrust into the fray, buffeted by the externalized madness, no refuge from the self's onslaught. Oppressive weight of the climax crushes, introspective gaze turned outward in horrified awe, as the psyche's fall echoes unbound. The storm abates, leaving a hush over the desolation where stillness descends like a shroud. Ambiguous resolution stirs in the aftermath, collapse yields to a tentative void. Fragments lie scattered, spent from the fray, whispering of possible reintegration or eternal dispersal. Regret simmers low, embers in the cooling earth. Alienation lingers, but in the quiet, a numb companionship with the emptiness emerges. Jung's archetypes recede into myth, their fury expended, leaving archetypal echoes in the silence. Existential questions fade to murmurs, acceptance of the void or surrender to it. Mortality settles as dust, the end not cataclysmic but inevitable fade. Cognitive dissonance quiets, harmonies of discord resolving into monotone. The cathedral's ruins fade into the mist, symbol of the psyche's humbled state. You sit amid the hush, contemplating the ambiguous peace of nothingness, where being and non-being blur. The oppressive weight lightens to meditative repose, the soul adrift in the vast, empty cathedral of what was. Emptiness expands, the fog thickening to veil the remnants of strife. Resolution ambiguous, teetering between acceptance's fragile truce and the void's total dominion. The self, if it persists, is spectral, haunting its own absence. Regret dissolves into the haze, no longer sharp but diffuse sorrow. Alienation absolute yet intimate, one with the formless expanse. Archetypes integrate or evaporate, Jung's legacy a whisper in the wind. Existential dread transmutes to serene nihilism, the psyche embracing the lack of inherent meaning. Mortality's finality comforts in its universality, all paths leading to dust. Cognitive dissonance evaporates, leaving unadorned reality. Ruins blend with the landscape, the cathedral fully one with oblivion. You merge with the silhouette, fading into stillness, pondering if this emptiness is rebirth or erasure. Heavy introspection yields to quiet oppression, the soul's cathedral now boundless and bare, echoing with unspoken farewells. In the ultimate void, all resolves into nothing, the ambiguous end a suspension between being and cessation. Acceptance or void? The question lingers unanswered in the silence. Fragments coalesce into indistinct haze, the self a memory among memories. Regret, alienation, all themes dissolve into the ether. Jung's world fades, existential philosophy but echoes in the dark. Mortality claims its due, the psyche's cathedral utterly abandoned, windswept and still. Cognitive structures crumble to dust, no dissonance in uniformity. You dissolve into the liminal, the oppressive journey culminating in meditative nothingness. Whispers cease, leaving only the depths of being, or not being at all.